gave an example of any, except maybe saying this is that or something like that. Maybe I don't think that's an elementary proposition. But anyways, so I mean the idea is that you analyze and analyze and analyze and you get to an elementary proposition. But there's no example of it, because I mean to give an example you have to construct names for simples. And we don't have, I mean in society, in language that we use with each other, we don't have names for simples. And so, I mean, there's a whole issue with epistemology. How are you going to get to the, how would you know you've got to an elementary proposition in the first place? You would know it by knowing that you can't analyze it further. But, well, how do you know that your powers of analysis are weak or strong, and, that your powers of analysis are so accurate that you've actually got to the elementary proposition? So, the notion of an elementary proposition is better made sense of by the idea that for any sentence to have sense, it must ultimately have one analysis. And so the last posit of analysis must be an elementary proposition. That doesn't mean that I can ever get to an elementary proposition, but it does mean that there must be an elementary proposition. It does mean that. Wittgenstein was very serious about this. Even in the investigations, he says that there is an elementary proposition. How is it possible that there is no elementary proposition? There must be one. It is true that I can never give an example of it, but that doesn't mean it is not there. I'm forgetting the first question asked. That was a very interesting question.
It's on transcendental.
Oh, yeah, right. One way to get around this kind of problem is, I mean, Wittgenstein says logic is transcendental, ethics is transcendental. Are they transcendental in the same sense? No, not surely not. Uh, Ethical statements should not make sense because they reflect nothing. Do they say something? Here, I'm not sure what is the Tractarian position. I have always assumed that they say nothing, and also that they lack sense. So ethical statements should not be able to say anything, and they should lack sense, which are different from logical statements, which do say something, but they rather they don't say anything. But they it's not that they lack sense; they have sense. So now, if ethical statements and logical statements both have sense and both say nothing, then they would be just different types of statements which are transcendental. That's all there is to it. I find that very hard to believe that ethical statements. I mean, Professor Pradhan is right. They are both conditions of the word. That's correct. He's absolutely right. So there are two ways of looking at it. One is that there are certain manners of in which things are transcendental, such that they're conditions of there being a word. And there is another manner of being transcendental where differences appear between ethics, aesthetics, and logic. So maybe aesthetics and ethics get together in one place, whereas logic remains alone because it is one thing which which does not say something, but which does have sense. Whereas ethical statements neither make sense nor do they say anything. So the way ethics pervades the world, so to speak, is different from the way that logic pervades the world. Logic allows everything else to be there, but ethics doesn't allow everything else to be there. It kind of creates structures and problems in doing things such that you think that you can't do something wrong or whatever. So there's a kind of odd thing that we feel that we should not do something wrong. Where does that come from? That's the whole problem. But I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think that ethics and logic are transcendental in the same sense. But they are both transcendental, and they may be both transcendental simply because they are conditions of the world, but they are not available in the world. Nothing in the world tells you there is any ethics. But there is a sense in which everything in the world tells you there is an ethics. So this can be defended for logic, but you can't defend it for ethics. And surely Wittgenstein knew this. So he was waxing a bit lyrical when he was talking about ethics and aesthetics. He may have been confusing two different notions of transcendentalism. Because for him, one sense of transcendental is that thing is just outside the world. We can't speak about it in making any sense. Another sense of transcendental is that it is a condition of the world. Another sense of transcendental is that it is important, but we can't speak about it in the world. So there are many different senses of transcendental, and they may not necessarily be the same.
Um, uh,
Thank you very much. One clarification. Just if Professor Ponda allow me, can I
yes,
ask?
yes, sure.
Actually, in 4.112 Tractatus, Wittgenstein says philosophy aims at the logical clarification of thoughts. Philosophy is not a body of doctrine but an activity. In throughout your talk, can we say that logic is not a body of doctrine? Yes. Can we say that logic is an activity?
We can say that, yeah. I think we can simply say logic carries out inferences. The inferences, it's just an activity of some kind.
Okay, okay. Thank you very
Something
much.
you do. I mean, you just make sure that good, bad. Then you make distinctions between good and bad inferences. It's just to be careful about thinking and all that. But it's just in the very activity of thought, logic is involved. So no thought is possible unless logic is there at all. So it's like a ground of activity. There's just no activity possible unless this very peculiar sense of logic is there.
I mean, I have some point to ask on this. When Professor Pradhan said that it is about the condition of the world, logic is the condition of the world in a different sense than ethics is the condition of the world. So what I really understood from this is that ethics is a condition of the world so far as actions are concerned, and logic on the contrary is a condition of the world so far as thinking is concerned. So therefore when um, we reflect on thinking as an activity, I mean, when we talk about thinking as an activity, it is a kind of a performance. Hintika says that I think is a performance actually. So therefore, thinking has to be logical, to be guided by logic. So in that sense, the condition um, of my thought or what I'm going to express, and so also actions. So I mean, both are transcendental because at one point thought and actions are also meeting. So this is how I'm trying to understand. I'm not sure whether this is a right way to infer this kind of understanding. So
No, I think you're right. I mean, that's actually a very nice point that you have made about how ethics can be a condition of the world and logic can be a condition of the world, but in different senses.
yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Yeah.
So I mean, at one level, they're also they meet. I mean, it's not that at the level of thought, both are actually meeting. Ethics is
Hmm.
also meeting logic. So the logical and the ethical cannot be separated at one realm, particularly when we deal with values. Uh,
Yeah, but logic is more broader. Like it
yeah,
holds sense for
it has to
everything.
be, because if we try to see logic quite parallel with reason, the Kant's concept of reason or rational in that sense, so then yeah, both have yes. That is how
Even
the
actually,
pervasiveness is.
one of the things that we should think about is post tractatus. Now, in Frege and in Wittgenstein, we have this first order logic or whatever there is, and you have truth, falsity, and also you don't have many truth values and all that. But today we have so many kinds of logic. All of us know this. So, do the views of the tractatus hold today with so many kinds of logic? So that is something that we should think about. I think they do actually. I don't think that they don't hold. I think they do, even with the many different kinds of logic. I think the views of the tractors still hold.
Yeah, it is. That is how it is a classic.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yes,
something about it.
yes.
There are aspects of the tractors that hold for even today for varieties of logic. It is not that they don't hold.
I will request Sir to say something on this, whether they are merging at
Uh,
one level.
yeah,
Philosophy
there is a
concept.
point in your idea that ethics and logic can also meet,
Yes.
though they have different concerns altogether vis-a-vis the world, but they meet because, as you said, that thinking logically and thinking ethically both concern the same thinker. And to think ethically is also one presupposes logic, because ethics cannot be illogical.
Yeah.
So a logically possible world is also an ethically possible world.
Yeah.
So that way, if logic can be the condition of the world, ethics also can be the condition of the world. So meeting is on this point. There is one world which they are all about. Both are about one world. And who is the, or whom the world, the concept of thinking or ethics exists is the will, the human will, which Wittgenstein also calls the transcendental will, because that is the origin of both of thinking and also both of uh, logical thinking and moral thinking. So in that sense, I think they can meet, and they do meet. So Wittgenstein is not keeping them separate, because in the same breath he says logic is a condition of the world like ethics, or ethics is a condition of the world like ethics. Uh, so in that sense, perhaps they meet.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other question we can take? Last question, maybe.
Sir, well, I may be wrong, sir. Again, it's out of curiosity I ask. Well, when we say thinking logically and thinking ethically, they merge. When we say that logic lacks a subject matter, we can put anything into that form. Any unethical thinking into that form, in a valid form, okay,
Mhm.
because their subject matter is missing.
No, that then the question about e- expressibility, the something which is unsayable or inexpressible. So how, where do you, I mean, do you think there is an absence of logic? That's very wrong to say that there is absence of logic. But we can say that there is, I mean, that the possibility of expressing is mm, is has a limit. So we can say it like that.
May I just say,
Sir.
respond that to say that ethics can be illogical, or ethics can go against the norm of logic, will be an impossible thing in the tractatus, because any kind of thinking will be governed by laws of logic. So we cannot think illogically, uh, not only in science, or in not only in describing the world, but also in valuing the world. So when ethics values the world, evaluates the world, it also applies the laws of logic. So in that sense, laws of logic are the foundation on which everything stands. Okay, so we cannot say that ethics is treating the world very differently from logic.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sir,
Oh,
sir, one one thing. In one
yeah.
place, Wittgenstein says logical forms are without number.
Uh, Logical thoughts are without propositions, really says.
Logical forms are without number.
Yes, yes, yeah. Now, you cannot say 100 logical forms. If at all it is logical form, then it should be one, really. Logical form of propositions, logical form of facts. Ultimately, both converge. Logical form of propositions and logical form of facts are the same.
Sir,
So you cannot say there are different kinds of logical forms. So in that sense, I think he means to suggest that you cannot quantify the logical forms. Logical form is one.
Okay, that is why he uses numbers.
Yeah, in fact, number itself will have a logical form. So the question is, logical form is so fundamental that you cannot really quantify it also. You cannot go beyond the concept of logical form. We don't have a logical form of logical form. We cannot give a meta-linguistic explanation of logical form, because the logical form is central to our understanding, our expressions, our thinking, our language. So in that sense, logical form cannot be further quantified or further divided into different kinds. This is how I will respond to your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Let Dr. Bhowmick also respond whether there can be different kinds of logical forms.
Yeah, I mean, Wittgenstein, I remember Wittgenstein is discussing the issue of monism and pluralism there. And so that is why he says logical forms have no number to them. And so you can never say any number is preeminent and the number one, that this is more preeminent than the number two. So
Yes.
that is why the notions of monism and pluralism are completely false. And
Yes.
so you can never say that the world is made of one thing, or it is made of two things, or three things, or there are five substances. There's just these are nonsensical statements. Logical forms are without number essentially.
Yes.
So, is there any question? Otherwise, we will close the session. Uh, Gita would, Professor Gita Ramana is there. Would like to ask some.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, hi Nilanjan. It's a great talk. And
Hello, madam.
I was just, hello, hello. I was thinking about this notion of inference that you had and the notion of transcendentality. So, would you try to kind of justify? I don't know if I should use that strong word, but inferences are a process of reasoning, kind of thinking, right? And of course it has a logical structure, and you need certain forms for inference, at least formal inferences and so on. But there are these, like you rightly said, there are these two ideas of transcendentality and inferentiality, which you are trying to, of course, bring out a certain connection. So when you say that logic is the ground, and when you say that something is, I'm still not getting that the justification of even thinking about inference. I mean, why is it that we are using, it's a very modern notion, and why are we, I mean, don't you think that these two notions are quite different in a quite a radical way, when you say that something is a ground of something? And of course Wittgenstein is trying to do something very, very important, and is moving away from the typical notions of logical of logic, even from Frege's point of view. So I was just trying to struggle with this idea of inferentiality and transcendentality. Maybe you have something in mind that will help us, get that reason that you want to connect. Apart from the fact that we commonsensically use inference in modern logic in a certain way. And so I was just trying to think about this connection that you, any other argument that you have to make us feel comfortable with this link that you're trying to make between transcendentality and inferential. I mean, I don't know what Wittgenstein was thinking, but from your point of view, any further thoughts on this at least would be helpful, I thought.
Oh, I am as confused as you are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I am still struggling with this idea, though I am not struggling with this. Is a new angle you have given to me to struggle with. So, I was struggling with the connection between mirroring and inference, not
Mhm.
between transcendentalism and inference. That's a different struggle altogether. I mean,
Yes.
that would be a very
But
difficult struggle to win over.
yeah, but when you're talking about this whole picture, which has come out towards the end very neatly and very nicely, so I was quite excited by your, the way you put it all together. But I think what's standing out to me right now is this notion of inference, logic as inference, and logic as
Hmm.
transcendent. And these old articles we used to have about even Dummett grappled with this idea: is logic empirical? All these
Hmm.
1960s,
Hmm.
70s
Yeah,
articles.
that's right. Yeah. Hmm.
And that I thought is some clue is there to get hold of this idea of what logic is all about. So somehow this inferential aspect of logic and the transcendental, they seem to be really different notions. And to try and get this together in modern logic, which is of course beginning with Frege, piano, and others. But of course, Wittgenstein is doing something absolutely different, and we are all, always trying to get into this heart of Tractatus, which is also my favorite book and my favorite exercise, because it just throws you off balance with all these things that you have learned before. Like it's always fascinated me. But these two notions of logic as inference and logic as transcendental, I think a lot of uh, you have some intuition on what something that you want to connect it. But I was just thinking, anything more on this notion uh, where we can go, or is it why are we even talking about inference in Wittgenstein? I would say that attractive.
Well,
That's
you're
my
actually
point.
given me a new problem because I
Oh,
wasn't
is
thinking of
that so?
connecting transcendentalism with inference.
Okay, but somehow
That's
these
actually a
two
very interesting
concepts
angle.
came
I
out very
never thought of
clearly.
connecting.
Okay, but
Ah,
these two
I mean,
concepts have come out very clearly when in your talk from my point, third person perspective, and I'm just trying to see
hmm, hmm, hmm.
this. Yeah,
Yeah, I will think about this. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a connection I didn't see at all. I just thought that
I
mirroring
see.
and inference has to be connected. But now you are saying that no, wait a second, transcendentalism and inference, you have to sort of connect them,
Because
and
both of
that's a
these
much
words are
harder
there.
connection to make.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that is true.
transcendental is
That's a
already there
much
in
harder
logic,
connection.
in Tractatus,
It is
and
there.
inference
Yeah,
is this
it
new
should be the
idea that
same
we
answer
are
actually.
pushing it in.
Yeah, it should be the same answer. The tautologies do all the job. Mirroring,
Mm.
transcendental, all the jobs are done by tautology.
But inference and
But it's
tautology,
just
I
not
mean,
harder
we
for
don't have
tautology
to
to do that.
infer, no? In tautology, it's there. We are just making it explicit. The process of reasoning is something that
Correct.
you're just
Yes, that's right.
making it explicit, right? And I think Wittgenstein
Hmm,
wants to
hmm,
say
hmm.
something more interesting, like what Professor Pradhan was saying, that there is a certain metaphysical point he's making. And of course, he got so bugged that he said, well, if that is true, Tractatus is nonsense. But he was
Hmm,
trying to
hmm.
say something that he should not say, kind of a thing. And I think and that whole process of realization is something quite remarkable. So that insight that comes from that realization, I think that link, that point, is something that hits us, but we don't know how to read this. And so
Hmm, hmm. No, no,
yeah.
you've given me a new problem to think about. So thanks a lot about that.
Okay.
I will think more about this because
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
another
but
angle I kind of
Nilanjan,
forgot to look
it
at.
was a great talk towards the end, at least, because as Professor Pradhan said, you started with so much pessimism. I was wondering, where it's going to go, but it came out pretty interesting at the end.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, yeah, great.
I think we would now close it, this session. Thank you, Dr. Nilanjan Bhowmick, for your wonderful and making it more lucid and to us. The discussion was indeed very fruitful. I'm sure everyone enjoyed your talk, and on behalf of Forum of for Philosophy, I thank you for your precious time that you spent today with us. And I also thank Professor Pradhan for chairing the session. He has been chairing the session all the time, and we have requested him to do that because um, his observations and understanding of the text helps many of the newcomers and the new readers of Tractatus. So we are immensely benefited from his observations. So thank you very much, sir. And I thank all the participants who participated in the discussion, and also um, listen to the talk. And today we have a new guest, Professor Narayan Rao. I met him recently in Odisha, so and shared our forum's activity. And another student friend, Priyambada Rana, first time attending this talk. So I welcome both of them on behalf of forum. And
Thank you, sir.
I hope we will continue our journey with this lecture series, and meet next month again. Thank you. And
Thank you, Professor Panda.
Thank you
And
very much, sir. Thank you, Professor
thank
Pradhan.
you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Bhowmick.